What is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome to episode 93 of the Rise to Glory, here with Gibraltar Apex, and today I have for you guys our opening Champions League group stage game against Internazionale. And yeah, we're away from home, we're playing in Italy. There's only been one game since the last episode, but I do feel like it's worth remembering a man who, well, today we come up against for the first time ever. Daniele Russo, our former man, joined us on loan for 2 years. In fact, no, it was 3 years in the end. Last year, a really key player for us. In fact, scored a kind of hat-trick against Internazionale at this stage in this competition. Today, I'm hoping he's not going to do the same against us. Worth noting, this guy now has a cap and a goal for Italy at age 20, so we've certainly contributed to his development. And yeah, I'm hoping today we can, well, get one over on him, really. Anyway, as I mentioned, since the last episode, just one game to tell you guys about. It was in the Pepe Reyes Cup. We actually ended up beating Gibraltar Lions 6-1 in this game. A really convincing result. Callum Oakley grabbing 4 or 5. He got a lot. This guy, the Englishman, he's a good player for us. A very good player. A player who I'd love to sign permanently. Of course, was on loan last year from Arsenal. Continued his loan this year. And well, so far this year, as you guys can see, he has got 9 goals in 5 Champions League appearances. So I'm hoping that, yeah, we can keep hold of him because he's a player I'd love to kind of keep at the club for the foreseeable future. Anyway, looking at our team going into today's game, there are a few injuries and a few absences perhaps worth noting. Walter Del Sol, perhaps the most notable, out with strained knee ligaments, which is a little bit of a shame. George Helmers, who of course has been out with a broken leg, the German, not declined as much as you might fear he would, being out for almost half a year, but with his match fitness not at 100%, I've decided that we're not going to play him today, and instead our back two is actually going to be made up of Frigier, the Frenchman, and alongside him we go with our loanee from Tottenham Hotspur, Gareth Palmer, a player who perhaps isn't good enough for this level really, but we're going to give him a chance today. The 20-year-old Englishman joined us on a free loan. We didn't have to pay any fees, any of his wages. Was delighted to get him in really, and well, he's going to get a chance here in a fairly big game for us. Anyway, if we look at the rest of our team, in goal we go with Ludwig Jung. He's kind of keeping his position, the Swede. Actually recently took up Gibraltarian nationality, which is kind of nice. Although he has made an international appearance for Sweden, I don't believe it was in a competitive game, so there is still the option, maybe, just maybe, that he will take up Gibraltarian nationality and end up playing for us. Anyway, looking at the rest of our team, talked about the back two. At left back, Jay Marriott, the usual suspect there. The Gibraltarian, now with 4 international caps. He's just become kind of a regular player in our team. Perhaps one of the players long-term and perhaps even short-term I would like to replace. The 23-year-old, a good player, not showed much in the way of improvements in recent years, but a good player nevertheless. At right back we go with Tanzi, the Frenchman, in on loan from Arsenal. We actually have a few French players in our team. And speaking of French players, we have a French connection down the right-hand side as Dupont is our other right midfielder. 28 years old, of course, on loan for Atletico Madrid, and a very good player for us, I think it's fair to say. Anyway, the rest of our midfield, permanent players, of course. Paul Smith at left back, the Australian, a player who we're all too familiar at this point. And in the centre of midfield, we go with JJ and, of course, Bouchard. These two guys, two players who, they have an understanding. They've played alongside each other for a number of years. It's kind of crazy to think, I believe, and, well, I think it's crazy, I guess, that Joe Bouchard and Paul Smith, I believe they're both in their 6th years here at the club. They really have become kind of, what would you call it, landmark players of this team? The recognisable players of this team, certainly. I mean, you look at Paul Smith's stats, they've been absolutely ludicrous in the league. Anyway, our front two for today's game, we're actually going with Oakley and Tuzon. Unfortunately, Alex not 100% fit, out for 4 more days. Tuzon comes into the side, the Spaniard, a player who we brought in a few years ago, a player who I've potentially looked to sell, but he's been okay when he has played for us. And he has recently come back from a fairly lengthy injury of a sports hernia. And yeah, he is fit and ready to go in today's game. And alongside him we go with Oakley, the man with 9 Champions League goals already, will likely be the top goal scorer in the Champions League when all is said and done, really. Although actually I say that, Hernan Baroni for FC Copenhagen has 14. That's a little bit... Who did they beat? I bet he got them all in the qualifying. They've not even got to the group stage. He just scored a lot against all these little teams they came up against. Either way, fairly impressive showing by him, I think it's fair to say. I can't quite believe he's got that many goals. He puts Oakley to shame. I want to retract all statements praising Oakley, I feel, at this point. Anyway, let's get into today's game. We've talked about the starting lineup. It's a pretty good team. On the bench, we have some fairly strong players as well. Looking at it, we've got Alberto Romero, the goalkeeper, George Helmers, the centre-back, Jimmy Holmes, Alex, Jason Hull, Christian Mendes, and Jan van Dijk. So, yeah, pretty happy with that team. Some good players there. I think for today's game, we are going to play the more attacking 4-4-2. I would like to put in a quick disclaimer before we go into this game that this is the first ever match that I'm playing with Gibraltar Apex since the 16.3 Football Manager update, which of course brings a load of fixes to the game, a winter updated transfer database, but also some changes to the match engine, and whether or not those changes are going to impact our system, I'm not entirely sure. We will find out through experimentation, I guess. You never know. Maybe our tactic's going to work even better now. Maybe it's just not going to work as well. We'll have to sit around and, I guess, find out really just through experimentation, as I mentioned. I did look through the patch notes. There was nothing too major on the match engine front that was announced, but I know SI, they like to sneak things under the radar where they can. Anyway, Russo, number 9, the player to watch out for there, and he is got with the ball at the edge of the area, tees up a player, but Young in goal. Nice save by him, and well, we're going to need to hit Inter on the counter potentially, because looking at these stats, they're having their way with us already, and I'm now going to switch to the 4-4-2 counter. I mean, International now 15 minutes in to have 73% of possession. That is a little bit, what's the word? A little bit scary, a little bit worrying. And so in response to that, I am going to switch to the counter-attacking system. Happy to give them the ball, but we are going to look to hit them on the break. And actually, in the 10 minutes since we made that change, they are yet to have a shot on our goal. So that does seem to be working a little bit. Anyway, in terms of our goals this year, the board expected us to get to the Champions League group stage. We've done that. My personal aim, I think, for us this year in the Champions League is to finish top 3 in the group. I know we've reached the group stage, the knockout stage the last few years. I do think it's worth mentioning that this year we don't have the loan players like we did before. We are very much trusting the players that we have at our disposal. And actually, we did have a half chance there with Oakley. But yeah, if we could finish top 3, a Europa League knockout run would actually be quite beneficial to us. Of course, in the last few years, we have reached the Champions League knockout stages and then just been thumped in the first kind of round there. I feel like, actually for us long term, if we could get to the Europa League this year and maybe win a few games in the knockout stages, that'd be far more beneficial than if we kind of have a repeat of the last few years. So in some ways, I almost want to finish 3rd in our group. Of course, we're going to do our best and see how far we can get in the group stage here. And actually, so far in this game, we've put up a pretty good match here against Inter. They definitely are dominating the game as you'd expect them to, being the home team, being the bigger team. But Russo yet to tear us open too much. And well, with half an hour left, it's an even game and it's still all tied at 0-0. And despite our lack of possession, we have had a few chances come our way. And well, as I ramble on, there is not a lot of time left in this game, really. Tuzon struggling a little bit. I'm going to bring in Alex despite his injury. JJ on a booking. I'm going to bring in Jimmy Holmes. And I'm actually going to take off Palmer at this point and bring in Helmers. So going for the triple change, I want the German Helmers to come to the side. A very, very talented player, but also it's a good opportunity in the last 10 minutes to get him some match fitness and, well, maybe test him out here. As Inter are on the attack in Bula. Pion Sisto, let's not give away a penalty. Ball in Frigier. Lung has saved that. A great save by the Swede in goal. It really should have been a goal, though. Inter having the shot from the narrow angle, but we've defended it well and we will get away this corner as well. Now is the chance over. It's not yet. Ball dealt with Smith. Now can we break away? Oakley, options on the head, maybe. This could be a pointless highlight, but I want to get excited. Jay Marriott whips it in, headed away. Only as far as Bouchard. Now with Marriott again. Options in the middle. Can't find the ball in there. And for a second it looked like we might hit them on the break, although we might have a chance here. We have the ball. Paul Smith dispossessed, and Alfredo with a questionable header, although it's gifted to Oakley, and Oakley should have scored. The goal was there on a plate for him. 82 minutes gone. A horrific back pass by Inter. He was clean through, and in the end, Alex Merritt in goal for Inter. A very good goalkeeper in Football Manager. Keeps them in this game and is going to keep them in the time. Well, with 45 seconds left, it looks destined to be a 0-0, but there is time here. Inter on the attack. Can we defend? 0-0 would be a great result. A good block there. And Bula, though, still with the ball. And now with Pepito to Ibrahim. Can we do something here? Deba hits it. Young will collect. That is probably going to be the game right there. 0-0. Definitely not a bad performance. To get a point in our first game is good. Of course, last year we did meet Inter in the Champions League group stage and we beat them twice. But that was with the man, Daniele Russo, on our side, who of course played against us today. But we did keep him out, and considering we were missing a few players, to avoid defeat there is a very, very good result. A great start to our Champions League campaign. Of course, Bayern, as you can see here, beating Benfica. They beat them 2-1. So it's an okay result for us. It doesn't really matter too much at this point. We need to focus on our own results, at least initially. Our bid for Felix Oliveira has been accepted, but he doesn't want to join us. I'm still trying to sign Felix. Felix is like a fan favourite. I see comments every year saying, where's Felix? What's he doing now? He actually signed for Udinese this year. I tried to sign him and he turned me down. I then put in a bid just a few days ago. And as you can see, he's just not interested. It's sad. It's sad. Anyway, not the best episode, not the worst episode though. In terms of when we'll be back, we have got Benfica coming up. I don't think I'm going to do that game. Instead, I think we're going to do a Bayern Munich double header next time. They beat Benfica across the last game in the Champions League. Last time we came up against Bayern Munich, I think we beat them and we drew against them in live comms. So that's something to look forward to there. Hopefully I'll see you guys for that one. If you have enjoyed this episode, as always, smash the like button. If you've got any comments, leave them down below. And other than that, it is me, Jack, and I'll talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.